Soul Grows in Israel, a podcast where we ask the questions about ancient Jewish wisdom, modern life, and everything in between. So let's ask, let's have fun, and let's grow together. Hi, everybody, and welcome to an episode of A Soul Grows in Israel. And today it's a solo Grows in Israel. I'm back. And interestingly enough, it seems that you guys really do enjoy the solos, and I'm here to serve. And I've been trying to think what is pressing on me lately. And I know what it is. I just didn't know that I could come out here and just give a whole podcast on a topic that I find hard to perform. So this might just be a stream of consciousness, and let's see where we go and if you can relate. So I like to say I am in recovery of some essence of people pleasing my whole life. And the older I get, the more I notice that I still have work to do. Just when I think I nipped it in the bud, something else will come up and I'll be like, I need to assert myself or disrupt the flow of things to be genuine to myself. I can give you some quick examples. We just came out of the holidays and I was around a lot of family that I'm not always around. And it was a long time and they were on my turf. And again, I live halfway across the world from most of my family, and that has its upsides and its downsides. And obviously, the downsides are obvious, most of them, right? You have, let's just say, holidays where you're with friends instead of families. But on the other hand, you get to choose your friends, and that's the family that you sort of surround yourself with here in Israel when so many of us have moved here without that support system. But what ends up happening is when you are away from family, I feel like maybe there's a part of me that doesn't have to work on myself on that level because the friction that I experience might be with my nuclear family or myself around strangers or friends. But when those old triggers sort of land upon me, I get to find out, where am I really? And throughout the holidays, there were times when I was really impressed with myself, and there were times less so. Let me give some easy examples just in my regular day when it doesn't even matter. And this is Bakatan. For example, I went to a food truck with my friend and I was like, oh, I'm so hungry. What should I get? And she pointed to some sun-dried tomato sandwich, and I picked it up and I was like, I really don't want this. And it took me a second to say it out loud. I really don't want this. I put it back and took something that I wanted instead, which was protein, and I took tuna. And that wasn't anything but not speaking up for myself. Why would I take a sandwich I don't want? It sounds so insane when I say it out loud. But in reality, it took me a second. I find myself sometimes swallowing what I really want to do to, I don't know, to maybe keep a sense of harmony or ease with the person I'm with. I have to say that with the people I'm closest to, which would be my spouse and my kids, I don't do that. I'm my most myself, and probably with my mom also. But the second it starts to get a little broader than those people that I just counted on a hand, yeah, everyone wants you to be who you are genuinely. Where and why am I still learning on the job? So there's a famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avot that says, reflect upon three things and you'll not come to sin. Know from where you came to where you're going and before whom you will give account. That means a lot to me, okay? Because know from where you came, and I think the Mishnah is referring to, they mentioned a putrid drop, right? That's how this whole embryo gets started. But I was thinking, remember from where you come, remember that you come from something great. You have a piece of God in you, and Hashem is not I just created the world, but oops, this girl over here, she's got some flaws, I made a mistake. Those flaws are specifically perfect in their imperfections. This is how I need to operate and navigate my life with that backpack of my flaws and my assets. And where are you going? So again, the Mishnah might refer, where are you going? You're going to be one day dust underground, but really, where are you going? First of all, there's two yous. There are two me's. I have me atzmi, and I have the me that's ani. Okay. This is according to the Zohar, but also into all spirituality. I have the me, which is I have the me, which is atzmi, atzamot, my bones, my skin, the clothing, the beged that I wear in this world. In other words, I'm not a body with a soul inside of me. I'm a soul with a body wrapped around me. And that body wrapped around me is called my atzmi. But then there's the ani. And the ani is my everlasting self, where I came from, who I was, where I'm going, who I still will be. And that includes a lot of regashot, feelings. It includes a lot of machshavot, thoughts and my real essence, which is the neshama, which is my truest, godliest voice, breath, you name it. So I know where I came from. I came from this other realm of light and all of the worlds that we discussed in Kabbalah in a previous episode. I'm going to that same place, maybe in a different sphere, different level, depending on what I did here, what my other lives did here. I don't know much about them, but I know that, right? And also, before whom will you give account? Like, who will I stand before in judgment? It won't be the court of public opinion, and it won't be my friends. It's going to be Hashem. Um, and I hope I can exercise my self-judgment in a gentle way. And I hope that it's reciprocated to me by Hashem of this gentle, forgiving judgment. And I do think that's the case. And the world is a magnet. So if I'm really authentic with my needs and treat myself with the proper respect and alignment, I think that's what the universe will bring to me for the rest of my life. And I think that's what will happen everlasting when this life is over. But if I think I'm not good enough to be loyal to, and I am dependent on others' approval, opinion. If I'm dependent on the environment being very, very peaceful, otherwise I can't function. If those are the way I operate, then I don't know. I don't know that the universe will bring me anything different. I might always be bound and tied to approval, and that feels like being a prisoner of something. And when I imagine being free from that, that feels kind of like the wings that can let me fly. And all of us I know are somehow or somewhat bound a little bit to what people think of us. Now, this is not to negate that we all want to be loved. I think that's a deep primal need that needs to be heard and respected. We want to be loved. We want to share love. We want to experience all those things that are human and really beautiful, actually. It's different. It's different to want to be loved versus wanting to be approved of. And the truth is, I think that's why I was born. That's why we were all born, is to learn and to learn more about not just the universe in which we live, but to learn more about ourselves. And the less we're afraid to look at those less than pleasant parts, the less scary they are and the less bound by them we are. And nothing to the extreme, you guys, obviously. I understand that you need to pull back a little bit, and privacy is important and discretion is important and filtering what you say is important. But again, you can go too far on that one. And I think when you meet the uglier side of yourself, I think that's actually humility. If I keep pushing or tamping down the things I don't like about myself and turning away from them, I can become arrogant in this very shaky, unreal way. And I want to be more humble. There's this almost like invisible ladder of consciousness that takes you from one state of being to the other. And we learn that it's invisible except to those who are truly humble. And true humility is not being down on myself, and it's not denying my gifts. True humility is taking the bull by its horns. Like, these are my gifts. These are my flaws. Here I am, and I could just say that to myself. I don't need to say that out loud. But when you're living in that way, there's a steadiness there and an independence. And again, every time I think I'm there, like I'm recovered. I don't people please. I find like little nuances. If I tell myself I'm really working on Lashon Hara, but then someone in front of me is just going off, I'm not even that tempted to listen. Sometimes I really don't want to listen, but I also don't want to insult them and I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. And if I nod my head in agreement, maybe we can move on. If I even add to it, which is really wrong, then maybe they feel heard and validated. These are not good decisions, and it doesn't come from a place of giving and empathy like I'm pretending. It comes from a place of wanting to keep things copacetic, avoid any sort of snag or discomfort in the system. If I'm around someone who has different political opinions than me, no, I don't agree that I should start like fighting them. But sometimes I'll just keep quiet and I'll nod, even though I disagree completely. Why am I nodding? Since when is life a popularity contest? It's not. It's so strange that I still carry this around. And when I look back and I chat GPT it, my therapist, and I'm like, why? What is this need from? They'll tell you psychologically, there was a time in your life where you learned that being silent, being pleasant, and not making any sort of like waves in the situation kept you safe. And that's for sure it. Like, I know it resonates with me. If I made problems, I thought I would be less safe. And obviously I just said I feel really comfortable around my mom, which means my mom didn't make me feel that way. But there were other very significant characters in my story that definitely didn't have to say it, but I felt it. It's almost like a twist on words, like v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love thy friend as themselves. How about v'ahavta l'ra'acha kamocha. Like, love the bad part of you, whatever that is. It's obviously subjective, maybe, but love the things that aren't that lovable about you because, again, it's been given to you in a perfect way. And every year that goes by and you learn more skills or gain more confidence, that's another piece in your arsenal, in your toolbox to navigate with those what you want to consider flaws. But again, they're essential to your growth. And here's how it can really get deep. All of our actual strength comes from a divine light that gets poured down on us constantly, Shefa from God. And again, if we're standing in the right place and we're open for it, that's what we get filled with. And we learn that if I'm constantly searching for that light from other people, and I'm beholden again to other people's either approval, comfort near me, feelings towards me, I've stepped away from the alignment. In other words, I've stepped away from where the light, the divine light falls down. And instead, I'm trying to get it from other human beings that are flawed, that really are filled with their own nonsense. And they're really too busy to really approve or disapprove of me. Let's be honest. Who really cares? And yet, and yet, I personally do fall for it. And I don't want to disconnect from the true source. But in essence, that's what I'm doing. And if I'm really being honest, I can feel it. I can feel the difference as when I come in as myself completely and how good that feels and how really that is benefiting other people if I'm really concerned about that. And how humble it is too. Like, here's what I have. I've got olive. Let me give you some olive. And yeah, I'm good at being diplomatic, so I can polish it and make it easier maybe for people to be around versus being very harsh. I feel horrible if I'm being harsh and people get hurt by it or rubbed the wrong way. And I have to really decipher between me feeling badly because I hurt someone or me feeling badly because I'm less approved of or I've been less comfortable to be around. Those are not the same thing. And I find myself blurring the lines between the two. And this is a quote from the Zohar on Bereshit. When man seeks honor from others, the light departs from him, for honor belongs only to the Creator. So I'm actually losing spiritual light if I am chasing the approval of other people. And I think that's maybe one of the main reasons why Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our actual highest manhig, leader, shepherd, he was the most humble of all people and not at all victim to popular opinion at all. He wasn't diplomatic. He was din. He was straight. And yeah, he has his brother sort of ironing out those rigid edges. But ultimately, there's so much to learn from those kinds of people. In fact, the Ari HaKadosh says that each person is born with specific frequencies. You can call it electrical frequencies. You can call it ways of being. And when they open themselves up to find out if other people approve of them, they totally lost their frequency. They've gone off that level. And now we're adapting to the frequency of masks and a false world versus the real truth of who we are. So the world is not receiving our music, so to speak, because I've tuned into a different channel. And Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, who actually is the Baal HaSulam, an amazing voice in Kabbalah, he says as follows: each soul has its own vessel and light. The error of man is to seek another's vessel, for in doing so, he loses his own. That doesn't just mean I'm trying to be you, because chances are, especially hopefully at my age, that's not what I'm doing out here, but trying to ask you to sort of give me that check mark for your body language. All the signals we're analyzing in each other during the conversation, if I'm seeking that sort of approval, then again, I've given up my special vessel. And my special vessel is much messier than the one I'm putting forward when I'm looking for approval. And who needs something that neat and clean and inauthentic? I don't want that from other people. So what itch am I trying to scratch? I also think that I've gotten much better over the years. I want to pat myself on the back, but I know that when people have asked to come for Shabbat and I just wasn't feeling it, I, at this point in time in my life, have no issue saying it's not a good week. Call me in 2 weeks, or no, we're not having guests this Shabbat. And I notice when I really want to say yes, I mean it with my whole heart. I've also noticed that I always want to say yes when it's like an older widow or someone who really, really needs a place to go. Then I have like no struggle here. When I do have a struggle and I'm not feeling it, I have to listen to that voice. And if I feel guilty about it, they won't receive it well. That's the real truth. Okay. So let me just say that again. When I am in doubt that I'm doing the right thing, and I say it's not a great week and I'm sort of racked with guilt or I feel unsure about it, it won't be received well. I'll feel icky. They won't even respond very nicely. However, if I'm completely whole with myself and I trust in myself and I trust in my intuition and that voice, all is fine. I hang up. They feel good. They'll call me in 3 weeks or they won't. I hang up. I have a beautiful weekend. if I don't listen to that self and I do say yes when I didn't want to say yes, then no one had a good time. Would you want someone doing you a favor that didn't want to? It's not just the results that count, it's the intention, it's the actual feeling you have when you're involved in that kind of transaction. And I really hope and pray people are authentic with me and they don't answer the phone when they don't want to. And when they do, they want to. I hope to receive that. And for me to be able to receive that, I have to start giving that sort of energy. And again, I have been working on it over the years. I also think that people respect someone who says no when they don't want to do something more so. So if you're really looking for people's respect, that's not the point here, you guys. But if you really are, boundaries are a big deal. And I think the biggest lesson we have here in life is being loyal to yourself, being confident that you're coming from the right place. So, for example, if I really want something from my spouse, for example, and I say it with full confidence that I should probably have it, with full confidence that he loves me and wants the best for me, and I approach that conversation, I would say 9 out of 10 times I'll get exactly how I wanted it, what I wanted. It's it's really not the things that I say. It's not the things that I think. It's the deeper belief in myself. It's the deep consciousness of knowing that Hashem wants to give me everything, and Hashem is proud of me no matter what. And here I am, willing to be open, willing to be flexible, and willing to learn to do better. The second I put my walls up and I become rigid and I don't have a problem and I just continue lying to myself, then that's a place where I don't really believe it. And the universe will come up and show me over and over again. So if as a child I learned by being maybe entertaining, agreeable, charming, or even quiet was a way to avoid conflict, was a way to be received, it was a way to be loved, then I will really carry on that behavior into adulthood. And I would hope that for whatever years I have here on this earth, I'm able to undo the habits that were unhealthy that helped me to survive and learn a better way. And again, I don't regret the person I've become, but it's time to sort of let go of those things. It's been time for a while and I'm on it. I'm working on it. But then comes these sort of like headways, these situations where I'm faced with shadow experiences. You know, here I am as an adult and I'm around the same people I was when I was 10 years old. And it's a repeat. And how far have I become? And how far have I come? Do these people approve of me now? Why am I asking that question to myself? You know, it's like a low key thing in the back of my head. And Ah, I would love to unlock the shackles that keep me bound to that. And again, it's working, it's happening, but I got to keep it real. So when I ask, like, okay, so how do I undo this? Here are some tips that I've been given over the years to help me along in this place of real independence. And that would be sort of low stakes saying no. So, like I said before, for me, it might be I'm not in the mood of that restaurant. For my fellow people pleasers out there, it's a real struggle. So, to be able to say no to low stakes and to see what happens and to notice that nothing has changed, you're still fine. And whoever runs in the other direction, have at it. They were never here for you to begin with. And some self-awareness, like maybe at the end of the day, you can sort of take stock and say, when did I say yes? And it wasn't really truly aligned with how I felt. So here's a thought. The Elokut, the way of God, what we're supposed to do is very often our feeling in our body. Let me say that again. The Ratzon of Hashem for me is often intuitively felt in my body, in my stomach, my resistance. That discomfort or that excitement or enthusiasm, that very often is extremely holy intuition. And I need to pay attention to that. So if something comes at me, like a couple of options, and right away I restrict myself, there's a reason. Now, that doesn't mean I listen to everything blindly, but I can know that I can trust myself. And if my body is not reacting well, no, it's not what I need to be doing. And I can't be guilted into doing elsewhere because then I'm betraying myself. And again, when I betray myself, I disrespect myself and the universe disrespects me alongside. And I'll keep getting that over and over and over again. I toss a ball out there, that's the ball that's going to come multiplied back at me. But if I feel really excited about something, maybe it's even impractical. Like I'm thinking about going to a specific hotel and it fills me with so much excitement and I can picture it and I can work towards that and make that a reality, whether it's requesting it, maybe finding a discount, however you want to do it. Go for it because it filled you with excitement because that was Ritzon Eloki. And nothing is too exaggerated and too dramatic for that Ritzon that you feel in your body. And I really want Hashem to be in my life. And I really do want to be guided by something that authentic and light, not by masks, not by shadows of approval. I really want the real deal. Then I have to start to turn that volume up onto my intuition. I heard this quote from someone named Dr. Bryant. Pleasing is a form of self-abandonment, literally what we just said. When you say yes to others, make sure you aren't saying no to yourself at the same time. And again, it's like so much awareness is sort of required without OCD awareness, but like an awareness of knowing, this doesn't feel right. And again, you're proving to yourself that you're worth that extra moment and you are worth fighting for because it is a struggle. It's an internal struggle to listen to yourself. And I also think that you prove to people around you that you're worth it. And again, that's real confidence, but also that's someone I would want to be around. And I want to be a person that I want to be around. I mean, like most of this is not conscious. You have to realize it's not like I'm walking around in life trying to make people happy with me at all. And again, it's under the disguise of wanting everyone to be living in harmony. And I like when things are calm and just goes to show you, I will fight for things that are most important to me. Like I said before, kids, spouse. But for the world at large, like, is it really worth making waves with like a friend? I'm really not a huge fighter, but it's definitely worth it for me to voice disagreement sometimes. And it's really worth it for me to voice preference. Preference, that's like a harmless thing to do. And again, the more I notice things, the more I can forgive myself for that. And that helps really shape bravery, which is what I need to go forward and be better at this. And I said that humility will bring me up this ladder of a deeper consciousness. And what is humility? Well, it's broken down into two things. One is flexibility, called gemishut. Like I am willing to break these given facts, like these rules I created for myself, like I am only lovable if, or people will want to be around me if I do the following. Those are the things I need to break. And I can only do that if I'm flexible to take on a new way of being. It means that I'm being open. I'm open to change the whole script if need be for a better existence instead of getting stuck in old patterns. And I think humility is invoked here because there is a better way and I might not be privy to it yet. That's some humility. And it's actually quite a safe feeling knowing that I'm here to learn. Teach me. And who am I speaking to? Speaking to my ani, the part that knows. Atzmi is just like this horse that I'm riding, and the horse is like, show me where to go. And ani knows all. But I need to sort of let that volume be raised. And you know what happens? The ani, that voice, the soul voice, is really only audible when I'm in enlightenment, when I'm in alignment with our Eloki. So if I've been here this whole time and the light is pouring towards the center and I come back and I'm willing to change and I'm open to what's coming next, then that light can hit me. And I know this is theoretical, but in reality, I can just take one of my examples. For example, I'm telling myself I want to be better at not listening to Lashon Hara. And in my everyday life, it's a challenge, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I'm faced with someone with so much vitriol and so much toxicity, and they're just constantly venting and venting and venting, and I don't want to hurt them, so I'm just sitting there. And first of all, I'm like a receptacle. It's like I'm a garbage pail, and I'm just taking this all in. Like, what does that do for my own well-being? But I'm risking that to make them feel more comfortable. Doesn't sound right. So I can say, I want to do better. I want to learn more. And then I'm faced with that situation and I do it all over again, right? And I try to say it's Lashon Hara, it doesn't work. I try to walk away and I'm being followed. I mean, I'm talking about a really extreme case here. I don't know what to do, but I can say, Hashem, I know that that way is not the way. So I'm open to find a better way and a new way, and maybe new thoughts or strategies will come my way because I was open to it. So now I stepped into the light, and maybe the next podcast I listen to will be about that, or the next book or a quote or an idea will fall in my lap, or in the moment I'll fail a bit less, and a conversation I'll have will resonate with me, right? The second I'm open, Hashem has so many ways of communicating with me. And again, when I say Hashem, it's not this outside voice from seven heavens away. It's inside of me. It's inside of me. It's the soul-giving voice. And the second way of being humble is to agree, not to go against the reality. And what do I mean? I'm going to agree that the person sitting in front of me is super damaged and just doesn't know how to talk about anything besides for people, and they're put in my space. I didn't ask for it, and all right, let's go. I cannot imagine the situation differently. Like, I know that this is probably what's going to go down. I need to agree that this is the situation, and I have to be okay with literally standing up and walking away, regardless of how uncomfortable that person feels. Now, you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, but I don't think this would hurt. I think they might even be oblivious. It's standing up for me. It's standing up for my values. It's standing up for a better person that I hope to grow into. And also, it's me agreeing and accepting who I am. I accept that this is my Achilles heel. My weakness is in this area. I accept it and I'm willing to work on it. But the second I resist it, it's not an acceptance. It's wishing for things to be different without any sort of self-awareness. There's no strategy that will fall into place by looking the other way all the time. So I'm staring it in the face. I agree that this is the situation, but also I'm stepping into the light, which means I'm open to see what other strategy, what other whisper the universe is going to bring my way. And these are all rungs in the ladder of Sod. And Sod is the secret world or the secret explanation of Torah, the universe, ourselves. And there's like rungs in that ladder, and they include things like improving your midot. It sounds so banal, like work on your midot, but it's the most practical yet deepest work that we have is to work on our midot. Find our middle self, find our center. It's learning what I hope we're doing together right now, being inspired, being open to lessons and better ways of living. And like I said, it's the body. The body is telling you something. Pain is telling you something. Resistance is telling you something. Anxiety is telling you something. Stomach ache, sore throat. All of those things are messages. Take care of the body and the soul and align them. And that helps. So when I work out, it's not necessarily a visual result that I'm looking for. Often it's the feeling after. Often it's knowing that I'm in a place, again, I'm respecting the baggage I was given. And also it is working in tandem with the soul. And of course, then we have the speech, what I'm saying, what I'm not saying. Who am I pleasing? Who am I not pleasing? Speech naki. A clean speech doesn't just mean I'm not gossiping or cursing or whatever. It also means naki. It's clean from agendas. I can speak without trying to bring people onto my side. And people don't usually change sides, you guys. Okay. It's not to make myself feel better at the end of the day. And it's nice to feel better, but that's not my main agenda, I hope. And then, of course, the thoughts are cleaner. Machshavot nikiyot. They're less dark. They're less judgy. They're less sad. It's just a cleaner way of living. And there's something to say about taking an approach that isn't people pleasing. You know, we're getting up to Parshat Lech Lecha, and Avram is not given the destination. He's just told, I'll show you. Et haaretz arecha, I will show you the land. And he goes on this adventure of this not knowing, of this ginormous question mark. And I feel like that's the way we need to live. You know, we can plan the practical things in our life, but even that, I mean, the expectations for reality to look a certain way will often disappoint. I think that when we go through life not necessarily knowing in which direction we're being pulled to, but we're open. We're like, Hashem, lead me. And that can happen because I'm being honest about something. And I have no idea who's going to be there after this honesty is done for. Who's going to be by my side? Well, it's a big question mark. But if I live life based on the agenda to please others, I always know how the movie's going to end. They're all going to be happy with me. Yeah, that sounds really, really boring and inauthentic. What if only half the people are left and those are my keepers? That's the adventure of mystery. That's taking myself on a walk and I don't know how it ends. I don't know what the scenery is going to look like. And I don't know how curvy or straight the path is. But I'm going down a path where I am going to be honest and authentic with myself. I'm curious. I don't want to know the ending. So if you could imagine if I'm really happy with myself and I really do listen to all the voices that tell me this sandwich and not that sandwich, this place and not that place. If I'm doing that, then I'm mechaber ta'atzmi. I am really authentically joined with my inner self, then I'm inside my light. I'm inside that whole mekif, which means the light that surrounds me. That's my power. And Hashem tells Abraham, Hitalech lifanai v'heyeh tamim. Walk before me and be wholehearted, which means this feeling of sincerity and wholeness. Like be sincere as you walk along. Take your whole self with you and come follow me. And don't leave the parts behind, the parts that you'd rather be rid of, the parts that you're slightly ashamed of, the parts that are less perfect, less polished, less ready for prime time, public viewing. Take all of you with me and follow me because all of those things are necessary for your life. And as King David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Hein emet chavatz, God values authenticity, the truest, deepest parts of your heart more than anything fake. And God knows. I know when I'm not really being authentic, when it really comes down to it. I find myself even in prayers, sometimes being less authentic because I want to activate something. I'll give you an example. If I'm saying thank you, Hashem, even for the things that are hard for me. Sometimes I don't even mean that. And I've caught myself saying, I don't mean that. I want to mean that, but I don't. And all of a sudden, I was more authentic. I was more real. Hashem, please, I want to daven for the following. But my heart's not in it. I'm just saying that because maybe if I do that, then I'll get this. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. You can't fake your way through davening. Hashem is not a genie. It's really about coming clean, standing before Hashem, whether it's a siddur or your own words, obviously. Keep it real. And if you hope to be someone different, then say, I hope to be someone different. But I don't know if faking it till you make it really works in a spiritual realm. Here's a really nice one from Shmuel, from Navi. For man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Like Hashem is not going to fall for the external performance, which means me, my soul part of me is not going to fall for it either. And you know what? The soul part of everyone around you won't fall for it either. They'll get the ick a little bit by inauthenticity, or they'll feel maybe they don't get much from you, or maybe they can even manipulate you. It's not a winning combination being the most charming person in the room. It's nice. Again, it's nice to make people feel comfortable, but I think that I want to be proud of myself. And for me to be proud of myself, this is something I want to work on more, which is this is me. When in essence, authenticity is a form of emuna because it's saying if I'm real and I'm expressing really what I want and what I don't want, and any sort of diplomatic way is fine, by the way. But if I'm real, then I trust that this is the right way to be. And whatever life opens up as a consequence, that's the life that's meant for me. That's really emuna. And in fact, I don't want to get extreme here, but a lack of emuna would be me not trusting that and me thinking, I don't trust it's going to be okay. I don't want to fall and backfloat on Hashem's like intention for me. Instead, I'm going to build myself a rickety raft based on a bit of fakeness, a bit of swallowing my true will, and just survive the waves that way. It's just less steady, but I made it myself. I know every nook and cranny of that wooden raft. It's sort of creating my own prison that I'm familiar with instead of letting those walls break down and seeing what comes next. In fact, speaking of Rav Ashlag, in his introduction to the 10 Sfirot, he says, a person who acts in truth becomes a dwelling for the light of the Creator, which means that when I am not seeking approval, then the divine essence, the Shekhinah, feels safe to rest with me. Okay, so if you're watching this, it's not a wardrobe change. It's about a week later after I recorded this, and it's been on my mind a lot. Like, it's hard to figure out what is positive version of diplomacy and when does it go too far. So I was actually on a trip with two family members, unexpected trip with two females. And we were in Europe and it was really amazing. But because I was traveling without my family, without my spouse, I had my own room and a lot of time to reflect. And I noticed that these two members were not people pleasers at all. And I realized when it sort of was appropriate and even beautiful, and when it was actually like, oh, I don't know about that. So I think that I was really programmed at a young age to keep everything harmonious, be pleasant, and not cause anyone problems. And again, that could be really damaging and that could be really swallowing your own voice, or it could be very pleasant and very special depending on how you use it. And I think every characteristic, every midah, instead of it having negative connotations, it's almost neutral. In Kabbalah, it's actually called klipat noga. In general, that's anything that's just a neutral force. And you could take it to the shadow side, which would be a negative manifestation or iteration of that exact midah, or bring it to the positive side where it is actually making other people feel good, or it's bringing you success in a healthy way. So like I would notice if we went to these nice boutiques and we would try on clothing, and I would say, not, does this look make me fat? None of the cliches, but more so, should I buy this? And the girl that's with me is kind of like, it doesn't come with a matching skirt, not worth it, don't get it. And then she would try something on and I didn't even analyze it. I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I'd be so excited for them to get something and be like, yeah, get it. And then she would be like, yeah, but I have three of these at home. Does it really flatter me? And as she would ask questions, I'd be like, yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I felt like I was just being like, I don't know, like a lapdog. What do you mean? I hear what you're saying when you recommend it. And my first instinct is, yeah, buy everything. And I realized I didn't even have the muscle to be honest enough to start off right off the bat analytically. Turns out I come home and sometimes I listen to advice, sometimes I don't. If I feel something I want to buy it, I'll buy it. And this girl was right. every time she said, yeah, it's worth it, even if I felt it or didn't. And when she said, maybe pause, and I got it anyway, I was like, oh my gosh. Like she was automatically analyzing it for my good, whereas my go-to reaction was kind of like, I want you to be happy with this purchase. You're having so much fun. Let's just buy stuff instead of being as analytical as I might be with myself, almost, if that makes sense. And normally, that's the kind of behavior I'd frown on. Maybe this person might make waves in the family or start a conflict or not let something drop. And I always thought like I was winning by being the voice of reason, letting everyone feel comfortable around me. And yeah, that is good. But I see in my old age how I really can work on that. And if someone is literally in a store, like I know the Chafetz Chaim says, like be honest because they might be misguided. That's not being a good friend or spouse or sibling. Like I said before, though, it's so weird because when it does come to my immediate family, I will like right away be so straight. So I have it. I just haven't practiced it on the people in my second, third, fourth, fifth tier. And I think I could fine tune that. And again, it's not like the worst character trait you've ever heard of, but I can see how it's not really servicing people like I would think. And it's definitely time to sort of like, I don't know, grow up a little bit and find a voice that's a little bit less pleasant. Here's another example. So if it was tense and we went out to eat after a day of shopping and two of these people felt a little tense, I found myself normally trying to just keep the mood light. I once heard Gwyneth Paltrow describe it as a thermostat. Like when it's too cold in the room, she would turn up the heat. And when it was too hot in the room, she would turn up the cold, just trying to keep everything balanced, which is actually our sign, which is the Libra, which is the Moznayim, the scale. So it really is nafshi. It really is part of my soul. I'm not looking to like scoop out myself to copy someone else. That's not it. I'm trying to take myself and make it even more balanced, and even more authentic. Okay. So I realized like during dinner, what would happen if I also just decided to focus on my food and not speak? Why am I the filler? Why am I the buffer trying to make everything pleasant? What a load off. And I would just space out, pretend I was alone. And if anyone wants to talk, they can talk. And if I had an urge to say something that was important, I'd be like, is it important? Yeah. And I would say it. But am I just saying it to lighten the mood or make things fun for everyone else? Or, no, I'm not doing that. And it was actually really pleasant. Uh, I realized that or some of us, might work harder than others to just make the atmosphere comfortable. And why do we take that job upon ourselves? Like, does anyone want me doing that job? And I hope to carry this little project forward into my own like Shabbos meals or friendships. And it's harder than you think because you don't always notice when your knee-jerk reactions come in. So for some of you guys, it might be irritation or jealousy or whatever the things are that are all naturally part of our own spiritual or soul DNA. But I know some of the things I should work on, and I'm not always aware when it's kicking in. And I hope to become a bit more sensitive to it so that I think that especially the people closest around me will benefit from my truer self. Because if we're put into this world, we should express ourselves fully. And expressing ourselves fully, I don't mean talking a lot. I mean, express your innermost self in the fullest way possible, which will be withholding, giving and sharing, stopping to share, finding your own rhythm, finding your own middle place of balance. And it's so personal for each of us. But I think I'm onto something here. Like just when you think your work here is done, you live to see another day. And if I wake up with breath and I wake up with another day ahead of me, Hashem knows I still have work to do on this planet. And that's a message to me. Like, what can I work on without beating myself up? With a gentle hand, with introspection, and like I always say, with just curiosity. And these self realizations can't be forced. You might notice something about yourself and you don't love it that much, but I do think it takes a certain amount of courage, but also humor and humanity to face your shadow self and be like, okay, gotcha. This is something I should work on, whether it's feedback from other people sometimes, or it's your own sort of like ear and you're listening to something that you wish was different. And I'll also add that when I meet people or watch people on TV that remind me of this characteristic, I don't like it. I don't like it because I probably don't like it in myself. Like, I don't like watching people on TV be less authentic or more averse to conflict, or I don't like seeing those people. And in fact, I'm most attracted to honest people. Sometimes I see these reels of like someone from like the Eastern Bloc of Europe, whether it's Russia or Romania or the Ukraine, and someone will say, "Oh my gosh, My house is such a mess, excuse the mess. And American would be like, no, no, don't worry, your house looks good. And if you're with an Eastern European, they would stay quiet if they didn't think your house looked good. Or they would say, don't worry about the mess. You know, just honest, because why would they try to like butter things up? You just express something and they're just being real with you, or don't buy that jacket, or I'm not speaking now, I'm not in the mood. That would, I mean, I'll never be that. I'm always going to be me and I embrace it, and you're always going to be you. And it's the perfect way to be for your life. With that said, we have work to do. We have work of being the best version of ourselves. As Rav Zusha says, they're not going to say, why wasn't I Moshe Rabbeinu? They'll say, why wasn't I Rav Zusha? And they're not going to ask me why I wasn't an Eastern European or I wasn't more like my traveling friends. It would be much more like, why weren't you the Esther Malka that you could have been? And each of us has that task, and it's not that uncomfortable. It's kind of a beautiful thing to know that I have stuff to work on. I have another day, another year, Bezrat Hashem, many more years to get to a place that doesn't just benefit me, that doesn't just benefit me. It really does benefit my family and those around me. I'm like that puzzle piece, just like all of us are, and really benefits all of humanity when we find a better version, a more precise version of ourselves that is just better midot. It's so simple, and yet it's so not. So the people I feel safest around are the people I'm going to be the most authentic with because I have faith in them and in God that they'll be around when the dust settles. That doesn't mean I'm a monster, you guys. By the way, I'm not afraid of being a monster. I'm not afraid of my true self. I know that I'm not a monster, and that's really important for us all to know. And I think we restrict ourselves so much because we're afraid of who we're going to be if we just let go. But in reality, we're probably going to be okay. Yes, we'll have to maybe apologize if we misspeak, and we will work on our mitot, and we will hopefully not cause too much harm or not harm at all. True, all true. And by the way, there's no excuse for bad behavior, but there are excuses for negative character traits, some thoughts, some feelings. All of those things are the dust, the things that we're working on in this world. And again, for me to really like show up with all of it here, I have to get real comfortable with that. I mean, we know the Baal Shem Tov talks about this all the time, that the greatest closeness to Hashem is serving Hashem with simplicity and truth. It's really simple. Listen to that compass, listen to that voice, and adhere to it. Be loyal to it. Show confidence in it and in the results that come after. And authentic vulnerability is something that I think we all find to be so attractive. The Katsuker Rebbe was all about it. He said there's nothing more whole than a broken heart. And that can be someone who's coming in a place of weakness, vulnerability, sadness, just the stuff that looks a bit more broken and the stuff that just feels a bit real. You can take that to the umpteenth degree where it's unhealthy too. There's this beautiful song by Yishay Ribo, and he says, Hashem, please show me your will. And he says, Bli masechot, without any masks and without the need to leratzot, to please anyone. Just what is your will? And I want to sort of cue into it. And I want that to be my will too. And I can even take this to, if you wouldn't mind, someplace macro. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's get away from me, still grows in Israel, and my own personal work or struggles and your own. Let's zoom out of your own for a minute and just think of us as a people, as a nation. And how uncomfortable does it feel when we curry favor to the nations of the world? When if we grovel to the UN with our heads bent, like we just want to please you, whatever you say we'll do. It's not a good feeling. It's like we have this beautiful country and people with all of the potential in the world to lead with strength and bravery. We don't want to sort of sit on our hands and let evil befall us. It's not a good feeling when I see that happening on the world stage. And Hashem actually says, "Chisku al tir'u v'al ta'artzu mipneihem." Moshe tells the Jewish people, you're about to go in, stand firm, and not fear what other people think of you. And he's speaking to every generation's struggles. And if we can see that in a global way, I wonder then from the macro, from that bird's eye view, we can zoom back into our lives and notice how impressed we are with a nation with pride that stands up to things that are uncomfortable, whether people like it or not. Imagine in our own lives if we could be that person. And it sort of reminds me of this really cool quote in the Midrash that says, better to be a servant of God than a prince among men. Ooh. Yes, I want to grow into that quote when the Kotzker Rebbe says, I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not. Like, I want to inhabit that, and that's what I'm going to try for. I'm not going to try to perfect anything because fat chance, you know? And also we have our natures and our mazalot and how we were conditioned. We have so many factors that shape us. And I think some people listening, they wish they were more diplomatic and maybe they're always rude or they lack tact. Okay, your avodah is on the completely opposite trajectory of mine. But we're both equally working to find this middle ground, and everyone's middle ground is so different from the next. You know, I was saying davening, I know that we learn in Chassidut that there are no masks in tefillah. And if I want my tefillah to be more authentic, then again, I have to be more aware and more okay with where I am at the moment. It's not so aspirational. It's more like, here's where I am. Um, and what's my next step? And what's my next step? And I'm up and I'm down and I'm up and I'm down, but I'm in the game. So the light of the creator will dwell where there's truth and not when there's anything that's sort of self-indulgent or inauthentic. Listen to this. I thought this was so beautiful. Every time we betray our own truth to please, we fracture a little inside. But each time we honor that truth, even with trembling, we mend that fracture. And the Shekhinah rushes to fill the space where we choose honesty over harmony. Now, again, I'm not saying we need discord and conflict. I'm all about harmony and people really getting along in a true way. I'm talking about me mulatzmi, me and my body and expressing what I need in my own special diplomatic way, but not quieting down that voice. So, thank you for joining me on this very revealing journey and letting me know that you guys are a safe space and I can open myself up completely using whatever tools I have and being okay with the tools that I don't have or that I don't have yet. So enjoy your imperfections, whatever they are. Try to tweak them a little with gentle hands and love. So thanks for listening again, you guys. And I look forward to feedback and hearing what you thought. Bye. This has been fun and a little scary, but fun.